Barbarian, did you know that we can actually break this guy by choosing a very specific certain multi-class? Well, actually, it's almost a nice idea to multi-class a rogue with many different classes, but in the event of the fighter, which is a build that we're going to be taking a look at tomorrow, it's something that you can build with a rogue, and it's going to basically give you 6 attacks. Yes, you heard me right, 6 attacks. Although, there is going to be one single downside about this build. It's going to be amazing, it's going to be gorgeous, it's going to deal tremendous amounts of damage, but there is going to be one huge downside about this build, and that is that it's going to actually take a while before it actually kicks off. This build is going to establish itself until level 8. Not saying that it is going to be a bad build before that point, I'm just saying that the actual build is going to be established until you reach level 8. You are not going to be able to deal those extra attacks until you reach level 8. You are not going to be able to lone wolf situations with this character until you reach level 8. You are able to do so, and you're going to actually need assistance as well, either from potions, from a sorcerer, from someone else, because we're going to be using haste. That being said, let's just begin with the build. The race that we are going to be using, like always, it's up to your personal preference. Whichever race that you feel like playing as, it's most definitely going to be working amazing. As a matter of fact, I do not think that our beautiful tiefling right here, it's going to be an amazing option, because the racials that she is going to get, it's going to use one action and one bonus action. So basically we're going to be wasting actions and we're never going to be using smites. So it's a bad idea to go tiefling for a barbarian, but at the end of the day, her questline and basically all about her character, she is a barbarian on itself, so we might as well, right? So we're going to be using her as a baseline, and we're going to be taking 1 point to barbarian. We're going to begin as a barbarian because we want to have our martial weapons proficiency. That is why we are going to be starting with this thing. Also, if your barbarian is going to be the face of the party, you might want to consider a little bit to play some points into charisma, because you're going to have proficiencies with intimidation as well. So that is something nice to have in mind. And the ability scores that we are going to have right here, they are going to be like this. There's also going to be one downside about this thing, and that is that we're not going to be able to get completely all of our 3 features if we level up to level 12. So at level 4, when we're able to choose a different feature, you are going to be able to pull this thing all the way to 18 and this to 16. Dexterity, we're going to be using it for armor class depending on the type of armor that you're going to be using for as well for your initiative. And then constitution, it's just the thing about barbarian is that there's always going to be someone hitting you. That's the whole idea of the barbarian. The barbarian deals damage and receives damage, and he gets mad because he receives damage. So regardless of anything, you're always going to be receiving damage with the barbarian, but still, like, it's a kind of fun thing about the build. Now, at level 2, you're not going to have choices, but at level 2, you are going to receive something very important, which is going to be reckless attack. And this bad boy, this is what we're going to be using at all times, every single time. That is what we are going to be using. I'm building this barbarian as a two-hander. I was actually debating and making this guy a dual wield, make him a dexterity and do some tweaks around here and there, but at the end of the day I fell in love with this weapon that you can get very early on the early stages of Act 2. So we'll talk about that on the itemization section of the video. But yeah, reckless attack, that is going to be amazing. We'll talk about that later, a little bit later on the gameplay section of the video as well. At level 3, we are going to choose Berserker. When you choose Berserker, you are going to receive Frenzy. Now, we're going to be using this thing, and we're also not going to be using this thing. This is going to be just the insurance for you not to miss out on any attacks, and I'll try to be a little bit more clear on that once we get the gameplay section of the video. But just do know that Berserker, while you are on Frenzy, you are going to be able to use the Frenzied Strike, which is going to consume a bonus action to deal damage, but the more you use this thing, the more hit chance that your character is going to suffer. And also to sustain the frenzy, you have to strike someone or receive damage. Also, you're going to be able to use the enrage throw, which is hilarious. This thing allows you to throw people, creatures against each other and make them immediately go prone. So utility speaking, yeah, it's something nice to have. And when it comes to the actual hilariousness, it's amazing as well. At level 4 we are going to receive our feature, and we're going to be using Great Weapon Master. This is a passive little thing. It's going to receive a hit on your hit chance. It's going to get a -5 on an attack roll, but it's going to increase your native damage to 10. Now, since we have Reckless Attack, we're never going to be receiving that much of a penalty because we're always going to get that upstart on that thing. Just to have in mind that Frenzy is always going to diminish that as well. I'll try to explain all of that a little bit later on the gameplay section, but just for now, Great Weapon Master. At level 5 we are going to receive extra attack. When you use extra attack while you have a hasted character, you're basically going to receive 1 extra attack every time that you hit someone. So you use haste and then you use the extra attack. You hit someone, extra attack by haste. Attack someone else with your action and then receive the extra attack by haste. That's 4 total attacks. At level 6 we are going to multi-class for our rogue. The rogue is not going to get anything. It gets like a little bit more some abilities that you can change around here and there. I usually advise for you to go acrobatics and then also maintain the intimidation thing that you have right here and go for athletics as well. There's some little things that you can do in here that are going to be amazing, but yeah, I usually like to go with athletics and acrobatics and whatnot. Level 2 of our rogue is going to be unimportant. We are going to receive extra actions for cunning actions, hide and whatnot, but it's not important. This is where the build starts to shine, because at level 8 for your multi-class, level 5 Barbarian, and level 3 for Rogue, you are going to be able to select a subclass. You are going to choose the Thief. And the Thief, what this is going to do is that it's going to gain an additional bonus action. Meaning, if you haste your character, you get 1 hit, you get an extra attack for that. You get 1 hit, you get an extra attack for that. And then we're going to be using the extra actions, the additional actions that we have to be able to use our Great Weapon Master damage and also to use our Frenzied Attack when we do not have access to our Great Weapon Fighting. We'll talk about that in the gameplay section of the build. Now, itemization. First, let's talk about the weapon and why did I choose a halberd. The halberd that I recommend for this build is going to be this one, because it's going to give you a 1d4 on force damage, so that is amazing. And the thing is that I decided to use halberds with this Barbarian because halberds give you more range of attack, and that is amazing for opportunity attacks, so the enemy cannot bypass you that easily because you have lots and lots and lots of range. Other than that, the usefulness, it's just that. As for armor, you can either decide if you want to use medium armor or light armor. This is up to your personal preference and concessions that you want to make. Medium armor is going to give you more armor class, but it's going to restrain a little bit your dexterity bonus that you are going to get from armor class. And then the actual uncommon clothing or the clothing on itself, it's just going to give you, usually it's going to give you wrath, which basically means more damage, but you're going to more damage that you deal, but you're going to receive more damage. I usually like to go with medium armor, and there's that. The Dark Justiciar gauntlets, these guys are going to give you 1d4 necrotic damage, and the more damage that we can stack, it's always amazing, gorgeous and beautiful. Then we have the Caustic Band. This is going to add a 2 acid damage, which is going to be amazing as well. It's always amazing to have this thing. Now, The Killer's Sweetheart. This is basically going to give you a free critical hit on the Mant every time that you long rest. So it's always nice to have the Killer's Sweetheart. The Broadmother's Revenge. This is going to give you a 1d6 poison damage every time that you receive any kind of healing. And that is always amazing as well. So we are going to be using potions. You can use potions to actually get the buff from this thing, or you can be healed by your cleric. Just to have in mind that it's going to disappear quite fast, the effect of this thing. So you do not use potions with your barbarian, because it's going to waste action points that you are going to be using for attacks. It's usually better to throw a potion with some different character or heal you with a cleric. Right, gameplay. And how is this thing going to work? Well, basically you are going to have 6 attacks, but there are some things that you need to have in mind, because there are some things that are going to hinder you if you are not careful about them. So basically, haste is going to give you 2 attacks. Extra attack is going to be summed up to this attack. If you add them up, it's going to be 1 attack and then extra attack. 1 attack, extra attack. That is going to be coming from haste. Now remember that we actually take the great weapon fighting style from your feature. Well, not a style, but it's the great weapon fighting for a feature. Basically, every time that you kill an enemy, you get an extra attack as a bonus action. And then every time that you deal a critical hit, you also get an extra attack as a bonus action as well. So basically, the idea is that large enemies that have large health pools, you are going to deal 2 single attacks, and then that is going to yield you an extra attack. And then you go for someone else that has a high health pool, you deal 2 attacks, and once he's dead, you find someone else, you deal that extra attack. Now, on the events that you're not able to kill an enemy in your turn, in the events that you are not going to be able to deal a critical hit on your turn, you are going to be using Frenzy Attack. The thing is that Frenzy Attack is going to diminish your hit chance by quite a lot, and that stacks. So we do not want to be using that thing whenever we can avoid it. We're not going to be using that thing. The extra attack that we're always going to be using is going to be coming from great weapon fighting. Also, the great weapon fighting is not going to suffer any kind of hindrance, provided that you use your relentless attack, because the relentless attack is going to give you advantage on your attacks, but it's also going to give the enemy advantage on attacks onto you. So use it carefully, use it wisely. Also make sure that someone else is healing you, because if you heal yourself with a potion, you're going to be wasting a bonus action. Remember, the bonus action, we are going to be using it to deal those extra attacks. If you play this thing properly, you are going to be able to do 6 attacks in just 1 single turn if you are hasted, and also that means that you can kill 3 enemies that have large health pools and 6 enemies that have low health pools, because you have so much damage from the items, rings and whatnot. Another thing that I didn't mention on the itemization section of the video, because it's not an itemization, it's always nice to take Lucky of the far realms, because it's just an extra critical hit on demand, and it's always nice, but do not take it if you do not want to get another tadpole on your head. That is a thing for roleplay value. If you want to use this thing, might as well go for it. If you don't want to use this thing, might as well do not use this thing. And that is basically how this Barbarian works. Something else that you can do is that you can throw enemies against each other, like we mentioned previously. The one downside of this thing is that our weapon is not going to be a throwable. If you have throwable weapons, you can use your extra actions to throw weapons onto the enemy. It's always something nice. We do not have any right now because, like I said, I like this halberd. But if you do not want to use halberds, you can most certainly use a weapon that you're able to throw, and you're going to be able to prone enemies by throwing weapons. If you like content, like and very super appreciated. No one told you today, you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, like the video before you close the door, and I'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.